We are honored to present you today Her Excellency Mrs. President Nataša Pirc Musar while she's on a visit to Republic of Moldova, probably her first visit as a president in this country. And welcome here, Mrs. President, and we are very happy to that you came here during these times when it's very difficult as for the economy, for the society, and also for the political situation in Moldova. But first of all, I would like to talk to you about the 30 years. We marked at the end of October the 30 years of bilateral cooperation between Moldova and Slovenia. And what has distinguished these 3 decades of cooperation between the two countries?
You know, the first 10 years of the independence of Slovenia was really focused on the European Union integration. And this is something we have in common with your country. I have met your president, Maia Sandu, for the first time in February this year. I'm only the president for 10 months, so I am, you know, a new kid on a block, first-time politician. And when we've met for the first time in Munich, I just felt that we really do share the same values, that we do have a lot in common. And now when Moldova is taking the European Union path, you know, that the relationships are getting stronger and stronger because we are like-minded countries. We are practically the same in size and by the number of the population. And we are really happy and honored to pass the experience of taking the European Union a path and share the experience with Moldova. I am in your country for the first time, not only as a president, but first time ever. And I have to tell you that you do have a beautiful country. I didn't have a lot of time to travel around, but I see that you are becoming a green country. You are working a lot on having more forests, more trees. This is a project that Maia Sandu passionately believes in. And every single country from European Union, you know, is offering the help. And as I said to all the high officials of your country, the advantage of Slovenia at that time was that we only needed to persuade 18 countries to accept Slovenia as a new member. Moldova has now to persuade 27 countries. So this is why it is very essential that the politicians, the heads of states are coming to Moldova, but never forget that it's also very important that your president, your prime minister, that both of them and the president of the parliament are traveling abroad to explain what Moldova's philosophy for the future is all about, because this is part of the integration process. Never forget, 27 member states will have to vote in their respective parliaments to accept new countries. So it's really on you to show us the willingness, the strength, the ideas that you have behind. And I have to be honest, I mean, Maia Sandu is such a powerful lady with such a vision that I did not hesitate when I got the invitation together with Austrian President Alexander von der Bellen to come and to discuss the European future. And I was really happy and honored that I was given the opportunity to have a discussion with your students, because the future is in their hands. They have to believe in the path. You know, the politicians today are breaking the first couple of steps, but then it's on them to follow. So this is why I was happy to have a fruitful and meaningful discussion with the young people of your country.
Thank you very much. You all know, all the European countries as well as Moldova, that in December, in mid-December, or probably till the end of the year, there should be some kind of news about it, when the negotiations for adheration to the EU of Moldova will start. What do you think? What should do Moldova next, besides all this traveling of the officials abroad? What the citizens are expected to do? And probably not only the politicians.
Never forget that there is no fast track to enter the European Union. We all went through that experience. And December is not like, you know, a really important date or month. Mm-hmm. And one thing I would like to assent as well. Do not enact and perform the reforms because you want to go to European Union. You have to do it for your own good, for the future, of course. And I'm pretty sure, you know, that Moldova is definitely on the right path. For the decision in December, which is really very important. Moldova fulfilled 92% of all the conditions already, which is a high percentage. But in December, you have to understand that Moldova is going to be discussed in a package of other countries which are trying to enter the European Union. Slovenia is fully supporting all 9 of them currently. And it's, me personally, I do believe that these countries in Eastern Europe, Ukraine, Moldova and Georgia, and the Western Balkan countries need more Europe, not less Europe. And just to stress, why was European Union established? It was because we wanted peace. European Union is competing with big players on our planet. It's United States who are our allies. Then you have China. India is booming up. And Moldova as an independent country is going to, it is a weak player. Like Slovenia was a weak player when we were not part of European Union. But if you look European Union as a whole, 27 member states, and in the future, I really do hope and pray for 36, we are much stronger. And our economy is getting better and better. And one more thing, it is statistically proven that all the countries which entered the European Union made a progress. None of the countries has less today. We all have more. For example, when we entered the European Union, Slovenia's GDP was 17,000 euros per capita. Today it's 30,000. Purchasing power parity is 53,000 per capita. So those are the numbers which do prove that despite the obstacles and minuses the integrations are bringing, we still live much, much better today than we lived 20 years ago. Slovenia is going to celebrate 20th anniversary next year of entering to the European Union. And if you're going to ask Slovenian population today, they would say that this was the right decision. And I would like to say that do not forget to communicate with people what the European Union is all about. This is why it is also important that foreign heads of states are coming to Moldova to explain from the personal experience what are the added values. There are always some minuses, but believe me, there are more pluses than minuses. And Moldova took the right path, and I'm pretty sure you are capable of fulfilling all the conditions. It's not an easy way. It never was, it never is. Also for Slovenia and other countries, in 2014, 10 new countries entered the European Union. 2004, sorry, yes. The path was not easy. It's not even easy today. As I often, it might sound as a joke, everybody hates Brussels bureaucracy, yes. Every single country. But you have to take this into account. If you have 27 member states or 36, there is a lot of bureaucracy behind. But all the bureaucracy is working towards unity, tolerance, solidarity, common market, common foreign politics also. So that's what the European Union is all about. But the pillar of European Union is rule of law and respecting of human rights. And this is what the true democracies believe in. And I think, and I'm sure, knowing Maya Sandu and other leaders, that you do believe in European values as well.
So you mentioned that one of the benefits and one of the pillars that stay at the basis of European Union is the rule of law.
Yes.
We all know that Moldova has made some progress in the justice reform, but not very much. There is still need to be a fight against corruption, against corrupt entities. There's oligarchization process as well. And from Slovenian experience, how was this fight for you? What instruments did you have to fight with the corrupt entities, with the judges that opposed to the reforms, and so on?
The judiciary system is the mirror of the society. And if you are not aware of that the final decisions that the court system is going to produce, this is going to show the seriousness of the believing into the rule of law. It's not easy. Also in Slovenian system, we have problems. Still today, it's an ongoing process. This battle is never going to end to fight against corruption. We have to be aware of that. But being a lawyer and being in courtrooms, I was an attorney at law for 8 years. I have to tell you one thing which is really very important. Young generation of judges is changing the system. And for example, in Slovenia, I can easily say that the high quality of judges is now on the first level of the court system.
And the trust in
Young,
justice.
prosperous, bright young generation, knowledgeable in different fields of law. And these people are building the system from bottom to up. Of course, then, it is very important that you have wise men and women at the Supreme Court and at the Constitutional Court. This is the final frontier of the rule of law. So, education, giving good conditions for young judges, a transparable and justified election system for the judges to enter the judiciary system. This is what you have to work on, what we have to work on constantly, all the time.
We all know that even the western part and the eastern part of Europe is now fighting a hybrid war coming from Russia. And it means propaganda, disinformation. It's not a usual war as we see in Ukraine now. So how did your country, if it faced propaganda and disinformation coming from Russia through various sources, media, I don't know, politicians and so on, how did it fight this disinformation? Because we are still attacked as a country massively every single day with threats from the Kremlin, with some kind of, I don't know, with...
it's a hostile propaganda,
yes.
let's name it that way, that's the fact.
And they want to hijack our European journey towards the EU. So how do you fight this propaganda, this war?
This is something we have to live with as well. And just one more fact, you know, the disinformation, misinformation, fake news, they are always there, from the 19th century, if you want to. The problem we are facing today is the fastness of spreading the news around. So this is what modern technologies are bringing to us. And this is why we need to put a lot of effort to the media literacy, to the digital literacy from the young ages on. And one more thing, I was a journalist for 12 years. And I sometimes have a feeling, you know, that the journalists do think that on behalf and under the cap of the freedom of information, you can do and write and say basically whatever you want to do. The biggest obligation is on you, on media. You have to take the responsibility and be responsible and be aware of the seriousness of your profession, that you are the final frontier and the barrier of filtering the fake news with fact-checking and offering to the society the just information on the best way you can. Of course, the media is sometimes hoping and asking for the help from the governments. But freedom of expression is a human right which needs to be tackled with care, with a shaky hand, I often say. Of course, you know, the ministries needs to do the fact-checking as well, because the politicians and politics are using the social media as well, and social media is the platform which 70% of the people do use, and 75% of the people get the information only from the internet, from the digital. So this is the new era. Journalists have to adapt to it, politics have to adapt to it, education, media literacy is really, really important. And the project that I'm going to work on, and I already started to work on it, because, you know, being a data protection expert, I was the information commissioner of my country. I understand the technologies, and I do follow artificial intelligence really, really a lot. And I am aware that preparing an artificial intelligence software program to fight disinformation is not commercially interesting, because the big high-tech companies do not see money in it because they do not see the threats behind. But the disinformation is threatening our democracies. This is why I do believe that the countries, the states, need to step together, the democratic world needs to step together and to use artificial intelligence to fight disinformation. It's not an easy process. But artificial intelligence is now developing rapidly, 150 applications per day which are connected to artificial intelligence are uploaded to, different platforms. 150 per day. Of course, everybody's using artificial intelligence. This is why I am also happy to live in European Union, because European Union is the leader in regulating modern technologies. We have to be careful in this regard as well, because over-regulating means that the development is not going to bring as much good as we want that the modern technologies can do. But artificial intelligence is really very specific. And now we are facing the shift, so that the big tech companies are asking for regulation. And inside European Union and Council of Europe, let's be honest, there is a regulation process already taking place. And there is a nice first step and platform how to deal with artificial intelligence. We have to make it clear what's absolutely prohibited for the artificial intelligence to be used in different fields, what has to be heavily regulated, what has to be supervised, and what does not need anything of the above. And just to say one more thing, I do apologize. Mm-hmm. What's absolutely prohibited, we have to define that the profiling of the people on public places should be prohibited with the usage of artificial intelligence, and to use the massive automated weapons in the world with the usage of artificial intelligence. That's, from my point of view, a no-go.
Drones, they have been
Yes.
created, but since we are not still part of the EU, and Russia still attacks with fake news, because that's the common practice that it uses in the country. Now our Moldovan security and information system blocked 6 TV channels and 30 websites which allegedly made propaganda for the Kremlin. Yes. And somehow influenced the local elections in Moldova. These channels and all the representatives of these channels said that their freedom has been neglected. Where this freedom begins and where it ends?
In law, we have a simple answer to that. We know absolute and relative human rights. We only have few absolute human rights. In democratic countries, the state does not have a right to kill a person. So the death penalty is out of the question. It's an absolute right. There are some others. Freedom of expression, it's not an absolute right. It's a relative right. That means that when in conflict with other human rights, the lawyers, the decision-making bodies have to evaluate which right is higher at the moment of the conflict. And regarding, blocking some TV stations and media portals, we do have a same experience from Brussels. When the war started in Ukraine, the Brussels decided that Sputnik and Russia Today needed to be blocked. And Russia Today in France, they filed a lawsuit in the General Court in Luxembourg, and they lost. In June this year, there was a very significant and important decision also for you to read, because the judges in Luxembourg, they said that the decision to block those 2 media was proportionate regarding the threats those 2 media were posing to the European Union society. You have to be careful. Remember the shaky hand. Freedom of expression is a cornerstone of every single democracy. You do not just block because you do not like the information in the media. The critics are always, and have to be welcomed. But if the misinformation and disinformation are causing harm to the society, you need to take steps, and you did. Don't be afraid, but evaluate and take into account the proportionate principle. Proportionality is something which is not easy to tackle in law, but it's one of the most important principles to find the right balance when the human rights are colliding to each other.
Thank you. That's a very important point for Moldova to take into account. But we also know that Moldova is exposed to economic threats, social threats, political, being the very first country at the border with Ukraine.
Yes.
And do you think that, or maybe under which umbrella should Moldova find its security? Should it be NATO? Should it be EU? Or does it mean that if Moldova adheres to the EU, does it mean that the security is being comforted to the country, or NATO is the very last option, that it's the most essential?
Definitely, the Moldova should not stay alone outside of every integration.
Neutrality
Neutrality, from Slovenia's point of view, and being a small country, the population of my country is 2 million. We are much stronger inside NATO, much stronger inside European Union.
Does Slovenia has an army?
Of course, we do have it. It's a small one, but we do have it. Otherwise, we cannot be members of NATO. So we do have it. We do have an army. And in this regard, you have to take different strategies. To become a member of European Union is probably easier to persuade the general public, and even your biggest enemy at the moment, which is Russia, is going to have less problems you joining European Union than you joining NATO. Mm-hmm. I often say that if you mention that the neighboring countries of Russia, or where the countries that Russia still has, interest, is like putting a red flag in front of the Putin to discuss NATO. So we have to be careful in this regard. For Slovenia, NATO means, and for all the countries, it's collective security. That's what NATO is all about. European Union is something completely different. That means, economical cooperation, rule of law, the development of the democracy. And I think that your country already decided about European Union.
About 70% of the Moldovans support European integration, while
which is
30% only support NATO.
It was the same in my country,
Okay,
for the NATO, it was really, the percentage was much lower than for the European Union. Mm-hmm. The left political spectrum is more pacifistic. We have to take this into account as well. Yeah, but at the end, there was a referenda for both integrations in my country, and it was successful. The higher number was for European Union. For NATO, it was a lower percentage. But what is important in this path? Never forget to inform the general public about every step you take. You have to be as transparent as possible to gain the trust. 60, 65% or 70, as you said, I heard that it's 60 and up.
68.
It's probably varying from month to month.
Yes.
Your goal should be 90%. But if you want to reach 90%, you have to be as open as possible. You have to inform the people about the benefits. You have to discuss minuses as well, because people need to be aware of the fact that it's not only honey and milk, as we say in my country. There are minuses as well. But at the end, I can assure you, from my personal experience, from the experience of my country, there are definitely more pluses than minuses.
Thank you very much. Another question, which I think it's very important also for the Moldovan society to take into account. Now we have a pro-European president, which is Maia Sandu. You offered her the BLAD Strategic Forum Distinguished Partner Award. And the question is, if Maia Sandu or if the pro-European forces are being taken out of the power and other forces come into power, can the European integration process be hijacked or stopped or regressed?
I know, and I can hear the skepticism behind your question, and I will tell a sentence which might sound like a generalization of it, but at the end it's on the people whom to vote. You have a democracy, so every single politician should do as much as he or she can to persuade the voters what's the right path. But nevertheless, when you do have democracies and you do not have, dictatorships or autocracy, there is always a shift in politics. Sometimes right-wing parties win, sometimes left-wing parties win. That's the game. But at the end, in my country, we were totally unified, left and right, regarding the European Union path. And that's what you have to achieve. Because if you're going to fight about the future of the country, where to go and which direction would be better, you're going to be in a schizophrene position every 4 years. And that's not good, because you will have to start building the country from scratch zero again if the new coalition is going to come with another agenda. You can discuss, conservatism and liberalism inside the European Union as well. But as long as all the political spectrum in Moldova believes in European Union path, you are okay. I know that you are afraid of Russia and the influence of Russia. But I think that Moldova people see what the autocratic regimes can do to the society. There are 55 armed conflicts currently going on around the globe. The one which affects us the most is, of course, the war in Ukraine. But I do hope that your people see and know who the aggressor is and who violated the Charter of United Nations and the international law. And from my perspective, do you really want to cooperate with the countries which do not respect the rule of law and the international law? I do not want that. My people in my country do not want that. And this is something that, left and right political spectrum in your country need to work hand in hand. I sometimes, joke that to have the peace and prosperity on the whole planet, it's mission impossible. And I often say that when a politician says that, of course I want peace, everybody wants peace, I might sound as Miss Universe, I want peace.
Just a message, but...
Yeah.
So
but the fact behind is,
between the opposition
definitely,
and the government.
Definitely. Do not forget, when you are discussing strategic projects, it's not only up to the government. You have to have coalition, the opposition as a partner. Never forget that. There are going to be differences, but as long as you have the right direction, that's okay. And if you want to be a part of the democratic world, you have to follow the United Nations rules, the Council of Europe rules. Moldova is a member of Council of Europe. And now you are aiming to reach European Union. And I really do believe it's the right path. Maybe in some autocratic regimes, everything from the outside looks perfect. It's clean, wealthy society. But if the people are arrested for saying a wrong word, if the people are killed for saying the wrong word, I'd rather have a bit of a mess in democracy than having an autocratic, polished from the outside perfect regime, which is inside far from perfect.
What are the areas, because we should come back at the relationship between Slovenia and Moldova, what are the areas that maybe were untapped and might be, developed in the future between these two countries? On the economic side, on the, different projects or sustainability,
reforesting, the green agendas and
renewable energy,
yes,
and so on.
Yes. Part of the European Union acquis and agenda is also the climate change, and this is something I heard today from the students that they are afraid of, that they are thinking about it. So European Union is working a lot in this. But regarding Slovenia's and Moldova's cooperation, I was visiting the governor of the National Bank of Moldova today, this morning, because it's a wonderful project for your bank, which is a project of a Slovenian organization called Center for Excellence in Finance. And this center is helping the countries entering European Union to develop the knowledge and the environment where the people would want to stay in the country. So the brain drain is in the focus that is not going to happen. And the governor just told me that they were really, really satisfied with this project. Another cooperation I would like to mention is to offer a psychosocial help to the refugees from Ukraine. Just a couple of weeks ago, the expert team from Slovenia was in Moldova. Moldova offered facilities for the Ukrainian teachers. And our team was here to teach the teachers how to face the traumas of the kids who are suffering in war. And you are doing an enormous job. You accepted so many refugees. And I really feel, happy and humbled and honored. And I have to honor you of what you did, because I remember my country when the war in Bosnia and Herzegovina happened. We accepted 100,000 refugees over the night. 70,000 of them were settled within their friends and families and people who didn't know them. The same in Moldova. 30,000 people are in, state facilities in Slovenia at that time was the same. This is showing to me the mentality of your nation and my nation, which is humanity, solidarity, and tolerance. And this is something we have in common. And I'm pretty sure there are going to be more projects. I really am becoming a friend with your president. And the similarity between our two countries is there. And I offered, and I already discussed with your prime minister and with your president and the president of the parliament, that our chief negotiator 20 years ago, who was a wonderful expert and a wonderful man, we had a discussion already with him, is willing to help Moldova to get a clear structure of what the next steps of negotiation process for entering European Union are going to be. It's not going to be easy. So our experts are willing to help, learn from us. So we can tell you the mistakes that we did and just learn and learn and learn from, not only from us, from other countries as well. Grab the best from each country you can.
It will be like a whole system for Moldova, which will help her.
Yes.
Okay, so the last questions. We know both Moldova and Slovenia are led by women.
Yes.
And that's very important. You are the first elected women in your country, and myself as well in Moldova. What do countries have to gain when women are in power?
Different energy, definitely. And do not forget, every single country which would neglect half of its population would be unwise. Women represent 50% of the planetary population. 50%, it's sometimes 1 plus minus 1. But our energy is different. It is not okay if only the men are in the leading positions, and it's not okay if only the ladies are in the leading positions. So it should be, we have to strive to reach the gender equality. And currently in Europe, there are only 7 female presidents. All around the globe, if we see the United Nations, there are only 29 of us. So it's still a long path to take. It is a never-ending fight. We will always have to fight for our rights. But it's worth it, And at the end, nothing without men, I'm saying. But the energy and the synergies in the cooperation with men and women are so obvious, and they're definitely bringing added values. Never forget that. Support young ladies. I broke the glass ceiling as the first female president last year in my country. Maya broke the glass ceiling in your country. And I hope that we could be, role models for the young girls behind us. But the men should support us in this path. That's the fact.
It's definitely true. Once again, thank you very much for being so open to offer this interview for Vocea Basarabiei. And we are waiting for your next visit in Moldova. Thank you for being so open to share your Slovenian experience into its path to the integration in the EU, and also 20 years before.
Yes, you are more than welcome. I was happy to accept the invitation, and please stay courageous. Nurture freedom of expression, you as a journalist. Rule of law and human rights. That's the mantra behind. All the best to you. Yeah, and I am pretty sure that I'm going to welcome you in the European Union quite soon.
See you soon then.
Definitely.